All right. It looks like we are up on YouTube, and I'm just double checking, make sure we are up on Facebook, and we will go ahead and get started in on this great show today. I'm really excited about the show today, and I'm in the best mood. I'll tell you
That's
what, this
good.
is this is a great day.
We had a
For
long
those,
weekend, so everyone should be refreshed and
yes,
ready to go today.
yes. Well, for those of you who didn't know, maybe I think most of you don't know. I spent the last 2 weeks in China checking out new technology. It was a great time, a lot of fun learning about new technology, talking to people about different products. And this year for PoE Texas is going to be a fun and exciting year for
Oh yeah,
products. We've got so many new types of products coming out that are going to be new, amazing type products, very exciting stuff. Um, we got a couple of previews. We've got a brand new tool that I'm testing out, been very impressed with, that I'm going to be trying to get out on the market. And it's a PoE installation tool, and you can use it to set up and calibrate cameras, Wi-Fi access points. You could manage
I think
devices
I've got to play
just
around
from
with
your
that one a
phone.
little bit. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I know what you're hinting at.
Yeah, we got that one going. Let's just put it this way: we got some Nook projects coming out,
hmm
and the Nook is that little mini computer that Intel does. So we got Nook, we've got Pi, we got some Raspberry Pi
We
products
do.
coming
Yep.
out that I'm very excited about. That will be very fun and exciting, and some new intelligent building stuff that I think will really just revolutionize how everything is going. And what we're doing is we're really capitalizing on the new 802.3 BT standard
Absolutely.
and getting the most out of it. So that's very exciting. So, welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and get the show started. Welcome to the PoE Texas live stream, Converge PoE. I have been trying to get our guest star on the show ever since the first time I saw him present at Bixie in San Antonio. Like I imagine most people, because when you're thinking about PoE, you're hanging out at home watching the last season of the Game of Thrones. I thought networks were for IP phones and Wi-Fi access points. I really had no concept for the longest time what intelligent buildings were. It's just networking stuff, right? It's a phone. It's an IP camera. There's nothing super exciting about it. Well, Bob got up at this presentation, and what he presented blew my mind. Once you know about all the kinds of technology converging on networks, you can never go back. You've taken the red pill. You've gone through the looking glass. And so I'm going to just get off and stop talking about me so we could bring this new guest onto the show. So let me get the show started. Most of you already know me, Tyler Andrews, the CEO and head nerd here at PoE Texas. We got some new nerd paraphernalia behind us. Comment and let us know what nerd paraphernalia you would like. I mean, do we need to do Marvel? Do we need to do DC? We start that big DC Marvel thing. I have crossed the line with Star Wars and Star Trek in the same location. So for those of you who you'll see as we pan around, I've got the blueprints to the USS Enterprise behind me here. And as always, I have our lovely co-host, Miss Maria Medell.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us again today. On the show, we have Bob Allen, an LEED, which is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. He's a Green Associate based in Watertown, Connecticut. Bob is part of the Siemon Company team as the Global Development Manager for Intelligent Buildings and Strategic Alliances. Huge title there.
He's going to talk about his title. We're going to have to go into
Yeah.
this whole title conversation in a
Absolutely.
second.
We have to get details on that. So in this role, he supports the global sales team to educate both current and potential customers on the Converge IT, intelligent building cabling solutions, and the economic impact of intelligent building construction. Bob holds an MBA from the University of Hartford and has over 15 years of experience in the IT industry. So one of his most recent accomplishments is being appointed vice chair of Continental Automated Building Associations, the Intelligent Building Council. So though he has an impressive career in IT, Bob still aspires to be a professional hockey player for the NHL. We'll have to find out his team in a bit here. So let's welcome him to the show today.
Hey, Bob,
Wow.
welcome onto the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show. And what a great introduction there. I should warn you. I may have to cut this short because my team is the Boston Bruins, and they may call me up for Wednesday's game.
No. I've actually been following the series a bit. I know Boston Bruins is kind of the team to beat right now. Hopefully, no one gets on me for that one.
Well, Bob, we had said, we're really excited to have you on the live stream with us. Do tell us about this title, because you have such an impressive title. Like there is no doubt that Bob is a smart guy, because this title is impressive. So give us the full title.
Well, I have to say, I think my value to the Siemon company is that I have the longest title in the organization, and technically, it's written out as the Global Business Development Manager for Intelligent Buildings and Strategic Alliances. And it actually kind of rolls in together because I spend a really big part of my time working directly with our customers to help them understand the economic benefits of looking at intelligent building technology. And then when they start to consider that and want to start moving in that direction on the strategic alliance side, my job is to bring in the right partners, whether it be to help design or edge device manufacturers or PoE switches, all the components that go into actually deploying an intelligent building.
Very cool, excellent, and that is quite a title and a job. I'll be frank. I've seen Bob at trade shows, and you should see this man work a trade show. He is a professional, and he gets out there, and everybody knows Bob's name. You would never, you can't get to a trade show like Big C or any other shows where Bob's at that they don't know his name. And so, Bob, no pressure here. It's not like I've hyped you up on what you can tell
Holy
us
cows.
to the point where the audience is expecting some Lawrence Fishburne impersonation holding out the blue pill and the red pill. But, can you give us, just say at 5,000 feet, not necessarily 10,000 feet, but bring it down to 5,000 feet, what's happening in the intelligent building technology that this audience who loves PoE, who does building automation, what they need to know about?
Sure. And that's a great question, because I think part of the misconception of intelligent buildings is that we're inventing new things. And while the outcome is different and new, in most cases, what we're doing is taking a lot of existing technology and just using it differently, bringing things together, converging them on a single IP infrastructure, using power over Ethernet to supply direct DC power to the devices, and enabling all of that through an integration platform or a shared database where the data now collected by all of the different systems is able to optimize all of the systems around it, giving us that better experience in a building. Tyler, when I meet with my customers, I like to think that I do three things, or my three focuses are to change the way they think about designing, procuring, and deploying their building. And when they do, the results should end up in capital cost savings, lower operational costs, and a better experience overall for those occupants, which might equate to higher levels of productivity. If it's more of a retail environment, could equate to higher levels of revenue. But just making sure that we're not using technology for the sake of technology, but to tie into those business drivers and show financial benefit for that building owner and that operator.
And in my experience with this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but my experience is that part of the reason why you need somebody like Bob out there working is because the time to do it, the right time to accomplish this, is right at the beginning. It's almost even before you put pen to paper. So if you're talking in the building construction phase, you're talking this is in the schematic design or the design development phase where you're concepting the building to do what you're talking about, Bob, which is take most advantage of the technology, because trying to go back and shoehorn it into a design later really doesn't give you the value. You kind of dilute the value of the new technology.
Optimize that for you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. The earlier that we can get engaged in a project and start to change that thought process, not only of the owner of the building or whoever's building the building, but that entire design team, And sometimes that means getting the right partners in place that can help continue to design and steer things in that intelligent building approach. And what I found is when we can get in around the 24-month mark before we start digging holes in the ground, that's that early design phase, and we can get the right partners engaged, we're actually saving customers over $2 million per 100,000 square feet of construction.
Wow.
So there's significant benefit to changing that thought process and kind of how we're doing things compared to that traditional approach. Now, the closer we get to actually starting to put the pieces of the building together and actually build it, the amount of savings that can be had in a building certainly goes down. But at that point, again, when we think of it not so much as a technology approach, but a financial approach to construction, change orders cost money. I totally understand that. But if the result is going to end up in savings greater than what that change order is going to cost, then we can give it serious consideration to make those in progress design changes.
Okay. Yeah. And I love that you're doing this from a real business case. I mean, that really makes so much sense to me, that it's not just about the technology, it's about the application of being able to do it where and how we need to. And I think that's very exciting. So real quick, Bob, I'm going to pause and just check with Maria. Are people checking in and saying hi to us here today?
They haven't yet. Maybe it's just because of the long weekend.
It's probably the long weekend.
Hopefully they'll start trickling in here. But no, we have no comments at the moment.
Okay.
So yeah, we can just proceed asking Bob some questions about smart building.
I like it. So, on this note then, Bob, I'm going to change direction just a little bit. We talked about 5,000 feet. What are the kinds of applications you think in the work that you're doing people should be considering? And what it really amounts to is you are transitioning scope from a range of contractors. Like right now you have your guy who comes in and he does your lighting system. And then you've got your guy who comes in and he does your BMS system and your HVAC system. And then you've got your guy who comes in and he runs your phone systems. And you got your AV guy and he runs his AV systems. And frankly, what you do is you get this broad range of contractors all trying to work on the building and all trying to talk together. And so the idea, if I'm understanding you right, Bob, and this is what we advocate too. So I'm going to shamelessly say we advocate this, because we believe it really does add value to the owner and the users of the system. Is we converge those down. We start getting, the lighting guy who's doing electrical, we get the guy who's doing the AV, you get the guy and we converge them onto one network, the network platform. So, Bob, what are if you could just list out and kind of give us the shot, what are the top 5? Go for these guys. Tell the owner, I want you to go for these top 5 areas. What would be your top 5?
Well, by far the top number one would be look at the lighting. And that dovetails on your last webcast where you talked about PoE lighting, low voltage lighting systems. And I will give you that list, but I think when we kind of peel that onion back and we look at the way traditional systems are deployed in a building, in a new construction building, you would typically run AC power to a device, whether it be a light fixture or maybe a card access device, a panel, something to that effect. And then you'd run a communication cable to it for the controls and whatever limited amount of data aspect there is to that device. Once that AC energy gets to that device, it typically converts it to DC power. So when we look at, rather than looking at individual systems, we look at centralized power conversion. One, the deployment is a lot less expensive. You're already running a data cable of some sorts to an edge device. So if we take that same data cable and now use a PoE switch to run both the power and the data to that device, we can eliminate an entire infrastructure component within the building, have better communication, and also lower our energy costs just by having a centralized data energy conversion. When we convert energy at the device, and I'll use cell phones as a great example, if you plug it into an AC outlet, you have to put that brick in the wall, and all it's doing is converting AC to DC, and it does a terrible job. We lose about 30% of our energy. Now, most network switch manufacturers, their efficiency level is over 90%. So if we simply do nothing different than convert energy at the switch level, at the network level, rather than the device level, we can pick up 20% energy savings. So now taking that in mind, and we look at building systems we should be looking at right off the bat, well, lighting's the most dense application in the building. So that's always number one on my list. From there, I look at device density, and that might change building to building. So probably card access would be one. Cameras certainly be another. HVAC components, even desktop computers.
Hey, I like that. Desktop computers. Just so you know, Bob, we actually we can offer desktop PoE powered desktop computers from the full 36-inch down to very small thin clients. So yeah, that is an excellent point.
You know what I especially like about the desktop computers is because there's no localized power supply, they only use 25% of the energy of a traditional business class desktop computer.
That is huge. And I tell people this all the time. Look around your office and look around the space where you're working and count up the kinds of things that are actually using AC power. And it's very small anymore. You're right. All of those systems are running low voltage. And what you really should be doing is figuring out, like you said, centralizing that power conversion. And one I'll throw out there that just to add to what Bob is talking about, the biggest thing that really frustrates me deep down inside as an engineer is when people put beautiful solar panels on the top of their building or buy solar energy, and what ends up happening is solar is generated in DC. So it's a DC power source, and then they have to run it through an inverter. So when you run it through an inverter, Bob, you're actually adding another layer of efficiency because you're converting
Absolutely.
your DC power into AC power to run it through AC cables in your walls to an outlet by your desk to plug in your iPhone's charger, which is just converting from AC back to DC. And you're doing it at these bigger efficiencies, so the losses are huge. And that is a real problem. And I think, I'm watching a lot of the shows right now about what we need to do to achieve carbon neutral sustainability. And regardless of how you feel about global warming and all of those kinds of things, there's this deep down engineer part of me that just likes efficiency. I strive for efficiency in everything I do, and definitely I'm all for reducing energy consumption. I am that dad who wanders around the house at night turning off all the lights because I've turned into that man, Bob. I am a dad now, and I am the dad turning off the lights. And unfortunately, my wife has gotten control of the thermostat. She got a Nest, and she's got the app on her phone. But anyway, I'm getting way off point. But it's talking about the efficiency. Getting efficiency on the network structure is so much more. You can't overestimate that value. In fact, I had the opportunity to go visit the Sinclair building up in Fort Worth, and they were showing me the kinds of efficiency levels they were achieving, and I was just floored. I mean, they were 2 times more efficient than the minimum requirement of the city. So
Wow.
You're not talking like minor efficiencies; you're talking significant efficiency changes.
And I have a comment, or I guess, on that. I guess I know your stance on it now. I'm curious what you think, Bob, when you're trying to, convince your users or consumers to either start building their smart building, from the bottom up, or maybe convert. Do you find that if they're on the fence, do you find that it's the energy efficiency that gets them or the cost savings?
It really depends on who your audience is. The ideal audience really is whoever has that P&L responsibility for that building project. And then when we look at it from a capital cost perspective, the systems themselves and the technology themselves almost are a pull through to that. But when we look underneath and we start to peel back the onion on the departments who'll be working hand in hand with the technology, I find that the energy reduction side appeals most to the facilities team. I find that the capital cost savings applies most or appeals most to the financial team, and the ability to deliver power, data, and control over one network appeals most to the IT departments.
Nice, so it all works together. That's good to hear.
It does. It's
and,
certainly a holistic approach.
And one that I would throw in there, Bob, too, is we talked about the CapEx, then there's the operating expenditure, and there's the energy usage. But there's also, I'll throw out there, we talked about this a lot on our show with Igor and the PoE lighting. the operability savings, reducing the number of people you're calling out and the different types of costs that you have to incur to maintain your systems. Because for every different system you have, you need to either hire or you need to contract out all of those different systems. And if you're converging on one network, one system, which is kind of the ideal, and I'll be frank, it's still kind of the unicorn. I don't think we're there yet, but you reduce the number of people you're having to call out to manage your building, and that has a real bottom line price tag that affects your operating expenses.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example of that too. Some folks, hopefully, that are watching are familiar with the Edge building in Amsterdam. And if they're not, they simply go to YouTube and search for Bloomberg the Edge. It's about a 4-minute, 20-second video. And at the time it was built, it was the most intelligent building in the world. And what impressed me most about the video that they put together and some of the statistics is that they were able to lower their maintenance costs by over $500,000 a year. And that's through the use of analytics, notably through the lighting system there, and combining that with the analytics from the other systems, understanding how their buildings were being used, changing the way that they actually have their contracts with cleaning companies, HVAC companies, and so on to best fit the actual use of the building.
Mm-hmm. And that's powerful. That's hugely powerful. That's
Very
kind
powerful.
that's the unicorn. That's the goal, frankly, that I have for PoE Texas, is that I would love to have it to the point where you could, if you've converged everything on a network, you could, and this is my challenge, Bob, to the industry in general, and where I'd like to see PoE Texas go is one platform where building owners would be able to actually have all of their information, all their assets registered onto one platform and being managed by one platform, and then contractors would be able to bid based on the asset database. Like you would go to the owner and say, Mr. Owner, are you interested in getting 3 bids for maintaining your HVAC system? And then this contractor would be integrated and be able to come in and know automatically what is on their HVAC system and what maintenance it requires and what services. And I think your point, Bob, there is huge, and I'd like to see us get there. I recognize too that we're not quite there as much as I'd like.
And you said it was the Bloomberg Edge. I'll research it and
Bloomberg the Edge
in the comments below for the watchers.
That'd be great. And Tyler, the unicorn analogy, I totally understand that. But we've just brought up 2, the Edge, and we brought up the Sinclair building, and we have multiple that are in design now. Others that are at various, or they were built in various stages of being, as I'll call it, a fully integrated building. So I think it's becoming less of a unicorn. And I think at a minimum, where we are now is the people building the buildings and the end users, they at a minimum want to be talking about this and be able to make that informed decision up front. Is there justification for us to move in this direction, or should we do things the way that we've done them for the last however many 50 years or so of construction?
Okay, well, and let's do one. One of the things I love about our audience, and we're going to get to this question that's come up, but Bob, when we talk about this, a big question is real practical. Who should owners call? I'm an owner. I'm planning my building. I'm considering a new project down the street, and I'd like to be able to do this. Who do I call as a resource? Like, let's talk names. Let's talk companies that can help navigate this process for them.
I would call myself. have them
there
call
you
Bob.
Go, guys.
Simple answer there. That's a real easy answer. And what I'm going to do, Bob, is I'm going to throw your title up here so everybody
Perfect.
can see it, and we'll even get your email address here. There you go. So Bob's email address is right there, and Bob is connected. So I will point that out, everybody. Bob is about as connected as you can get in the industry, and he will connect you with the right people.
And that's really what I was going to say, Tyler, is, I am not the one who's going to design the building for you, but being that unbiased, neutral party to help guide you through the process and introduce you to the right people so that you can decide if they're a fit for your business model. That's really where the value of my position comes in. As an organization, we actually manufacture the data cable that will then hopefully support that building for you. But as far as the ecosystem of partners from design and edge device, that's where my expertise will help a customer go from no intelligent building knowledge or experience to assembling the right team to accomplish the goals that we're talking about here, that financial savings, that operability, that ongoing operational savings and so on.
That's a huge deal. All right, so I was rushed and we didn't get that question. That's really important. So
It's just a watcher comment. So we have Rob Lloyd also watching from Connecticut. He said he's watching this on a PoE powered dual screen PC.
hey, Rob, thank you. Rob's one of our customers. He and I talk all the time, and he was working with the Thin Labs team. So shout out to you, Rob. Thanks for checking in with us.
We also have Peter Samios, apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, watching from New Jersey.
Hey, Peter.
Thanks for watching.
So, Rob, I would love, this would be great, Rob, if you've got a second, give us your feedback, how it's working on that dual 36-inch screen Thin Labs product. The guys at Thin Labs, great guys, and been very impressed. So throw in your comment. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. This is a great time to be open and honest. I mean, there's no agenda here. We love to get real, honest feedback. So, all right. Thanks for the shout out, guys. We're glad you're all here, and we're really enjoying the show.
And then we do
does
have a question.
Does Darth Vader also appreciate the open and honest feedback?
Yes,
he's keeping us honest. Let's put it that way. And that's what this is all about. He's like, you are not going to be product placement. Oh wait, the irony just hit me there.
And then Peter did give us a question. So he said he's hearing a lot today about commercial buildings. What about residential solutions?
There are definitely a lot of residential solutions out in the market. Tyler mentioned the Nest at home. And it's definitely a different market than the commercial. However, where I think the strength is in that residential market is it's very easy to do. I have SmartThings Hub at my house. It allows me to integrate things as I go along. So I have door locks, thermostats, garage door openers, different things like that integrated in. And I see that pushing the commercial market. So to put myself in the shoes of a CFO, if I'm hearing this type of a presentation and I'm able to open up my phone and change my thermostat at home, why shouldn't I be able to do that in my office? Why shouldn't I have that same level of comfort? It can be done. My SmartThings Hub compared to a enterprise building integration platform is really just a matter of size and obviously some catered functionality to the structure of a commercial building.
And Peter, I'll weigh in on this too. I'm going to tell you, Peter, come to the June 18th show. So June 18th, we have Robert Tate from The Hookup. He is one of my favorite YouTube channels, and Robert does all kinds of projects related to residential control, and he's using MQTT, home automation, open source software. These are all really cool technologies that are developing and growing in the back. And Rob agreed to come on our show because he's seeing the home automation network move more in the direction of PoE for some security reasons. Right now, the SmartThings Hub is really great. It just kind of, you plug it in and it plays and it works. But the challenge we're finding with a lot of home automation activities is they are wireless, and that presents some security questions for people. We're trying to deal with some of the security questions ourselves, but obviously a wired network is a much stronger solution. And I won't name names about kinds of companies that are trying to figure out how to get their wireless cameras wired, but there are some out there that are using USB-C that want to convert them back to PoE in basically USB-C power and data so they can get them on a PoE network, which I think is very good and valuable. I did have a question, maybe Peter, this would be for you too. That came up last night. My brother-in-law, he's in the residential construction industry, and we talk about our products a lot. So shout out to Miguel, Armio Homes. They do these amazing homes. Shamelessly plugging some family stuff.
Gotta help out the family.
But Bob, he asked me a question that I thought was really interesting. He was telling me that there are a lot of new residential systems that are going on DC powered lights, DC powered home automation and control. And his question for me was, is somebody out there producing a category cable that does the eight wires or the 4 pairs for the data plus a spare pair, I guess an extra pair for power, like an 18 gauge? Is that even something that's out there? I couldn't answer that for him.
I haven't seen that. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but I haven't seen a product similar to that.
And I think the reason why this was an important question is people are doing DC power, and so we automatically my gut response is, well, put in PoE, put in just network cable, and use PoE, and then use splitters, what we call PoE splitters. And what the splitter can do is it can split the data and the power out to the voltage that you need, and that's a very common thing. I'll pull up this guy here. For those of you guys who are seeing it, this takes, for example, PoE in at PoE plus, so you get 25 watts of power, and then it outputs the data and the power separately. So that's a PoE splitter, and what that would get you is that would allow you to not have to put in a more expensive or obviously a less common cable to be able to do the DC automation, but still get the power and the data out to your devices, which I like. So, all right, well, I'm glad I asked an expert on that.
And to add to that, in new
Go ahead.
construction, I would definitely be a proponent of running a category cable infrastructure alongside your AC infrastructure. Now that we're plugging in our refrigerators, our stoves, and we look at things like the wireless charging with cell phones. We're going to start seeing coffee tables and things like that that can plug into a network jack and allow you just to set your phone on it and charge your phone.
And he caught me, Bob. Thank you for teeing that up. We actually do that today. So we're working with some furniture manufacturers. So for any of you guys out there who want to integrate it into furniture, we do have PoE-powered wireless charging and USB chargers. Both options that are out there right now that are in existence. And I think that's good. That's very exciting. So, Peter, can I ask you a favor, my friend? Let us know what application you want. You can throw it in the comments here. You can comment after the video. If you want, you can email us after the show. We want to know what residential applications you're looking for. Because, like I said, we're going to have Robert Tate come on the show. He's going to be talking to us about a lot of really exciting technology. We have a couple of products in development that are targeting the automated residential market, and I would love to get some direction or some feedback from you to tell me where you want me to focus.
Yeah, Peter did say right now he uses Ubiquiti, but he's looking for a more open platform. So.
I like that, Peter. So that's what we're targeting for, is to be open so customers can use what they want. And I would almost challenge the guys out of Ubiquiti. One of the things that I love Ubiquiti. We have Ubiquiti here in the office, and I use it. The challenge is that we run into is that people are trying to, and Bob, this must be something you see, people are trying to kind of just hold the IP line as a company. And what they basically say is that we will support our products and no further. And it kind of creates a challenge for a lot of people because you don't have that. Guys are coming up with new ideas all the time.
Mm-hmm.
People come up with great new ideas every day. And the problem that you run into is if it's on a closed system like Ubiquiti's software systems, which are great, they're fantastic. I recommend them to anybody. But when they're locked up like that, it means that you don't get the innovation incorporated as quickly. And that's one of the things where PoE Texas is going to be drawing the line. We are going to be trying to make our products as close to open source as we can get them, because I want to invite innovation. I want to invite people to come from everywhere under the sun with, hey, could I do this PoE? Could it integrate into the system? And we want to be able to say yes. Now that's going to present some serious challenges for us, but I think we're going to get there. And I think that's, so Peter, I think you're making an excellent point. It's not about what I want to develop as a business. It's about what you as installers, as the audience, what the customer needs. So I think that's a very good point.
So it sounds like if you have a residential property, it's easier to convert that from its existing infrastructure rather than with commercial spaces building it from the ground up. Does that sound true, or?
Well, I would probably say no.
Oh, okay.
The hardest part is to run category cable in your house after your house is built. It's a cost challenge, and I think that's why, Bob, you said to builders and installers, do it now, because
so even for residential also.
even for residential,
Absolutely.
Good
because
point.
the technology is coming. It's in the wings. It's here, like Bob is saying. You can use if your PoE, if your ports in your wall are already PoE powered, you can use technology today. And I think the only reason why PoE is not better adopted into homes is that it is a little bit more expensive to try and run category cable in your walls after the building is up. So,
Good
you
point.
builders out there, put in that category cable. But maybe a question for you, Bob. What category cable should we put in as residential?
Whether it's residential or commercial, I always suggest using a minimum of a Cat 6A and make sure it's a shielded solution for a number of reasons. One, and most importantly, is the power delivery. A 6A cable is going to be slightly thicker on the copper side. So as we're seeing more power being delivered by the switches, soon to be up to 90 watts, we'll have an excellent conduit to be able to deliver that power to the edge device. And as you said, the cabled infrastructure is very difficult to either upgrade or have to install after the building is has been constructed. So the last thing you want as a business owner is to later on during the operational phase of the building have to decide to adopt a new technology or not based on do we have to replace our infrastructure to do it. So having that future mindedness day one is going to be very helpful moving forward. The other is the bandwidth capability of a 6A cabled solution. That would give you 10 gig of bandwidth capacity. Because the other big change that we're seeing now is what's happening on the edge, which the sensor capability, the network connectivity capability. So we want to make sure we have that ability to keep up with the edge devices and that data transfer as that gets bigger moving forward. Lastly, the shielding itself helps to dissipate heat from the cable, which will eliminate things like insertion loss and bit errors that are harmful to the data aspect of what we're doing. So, and to put that into perspective, the average cost in North America to bring AC power to an edge device is about $1,000. Within that, we have a circuit breaker, a portion of a panel, a transformer. We have conduit or piping here in North America that the cable needs to run through, and of course the cable, the electrician, and so on. We can bring PoE to that same location for about $250. That figures about $100 for a powered port and about $150 for an open air Cat 5e drop. So when we look at lowering that cost, and I did say Cat 5e there for the sake of argument, for another $150 would be that Cat 6A drop. So you're roughly saving about $600 every time you leverage PoE over AC power. So when we look at that and we look at that cumulative savings in the building, you can still have that more robust infrastructure and can save considerable amount of money when building a building.
And that's a great point. And I'm going to do something here, Bob, if it's all right. I'm going to bring up the product you and I were discussing here. Is a new product. We've got a line of products that are valuable because Cat 6 is more expensive. But to your point, you can get a lot more out of Cat 6. And
Cat 6A, and there's a big distinction
6.
between the two, just for clarification.
Thank you for correcting me on that, Bob. And we'll come back to I want to talk about that, the Cat 6A, but the product that came up with that is, and I'll be frank, I think Bob may actually shoot me for bringing something up like this. This is a node type device, and we have one that we sell right now that's not managed. It's the EX2005. You'll find it on our website. But we have this one here, which is now going to be a layer 2 managed switch, which means you have remote control of the PoE and the switching functions. But here's the idea. Here's the value of this guy, is that every network drop, I think, Bob, you said $250 for a network drop?
Yeah, you could do that. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, $250. This guy will run in the ballpark of $200 and allow you to do one network cable in. So you could run one Cat 6A network cable with 60 watt PoE to this guy, and then you could do PoE plus and PoE out of 4 ports to a localized device. And I think in the future, you're going to see more of these types of solutions out there where you can get more for your infrastructure dollars. We're not having to run 6, 8, 10 network home runs. You could cut that by something like this would allow you to cut it in thirds, unless you've got a real PoE drawing or a real power hungry device. So this is going to be the PM3005 GSM. It's going to be, I've got it in beta right now. So if you're out there and you want to get one of these, let me know. We can make one of these available for you. It's not widely available yet because we're going to be doing some testing, and I want to get some feedback from our audience.
Absolutely.
About what that would look like. So, Bob, Cat 6 versus Cat 6A. Give us the details on that.
Yeah, so that one little letter makes a huge distinction in two areas. One is the actual diameter of the copper inside the cable, inside each of those pairs. So 6A is going to have a lower gauge or thicker copper, which gives us more efficient power delivery, especially as we utilize higher power like 60 or 90 watts. The other is the amount of data transmission. A Cat 6 cable, it can only handle up to a gig of data, whereas a 6A is a 10 gig solution.
Okay. Very cool. So, Maria, I'm seeing the chat lines coming through, and I want to make sure we're getting what our audience wants to hear about.
Absolutely. So Rob commented back in regards to your ThinLabs inquiry with how it's operating. He said it's a great office PC, not high performance for those that need higher end graphics. So we appreciate the feedback on that.
So it's not a gaming console, and I think that's good to find out.
Yes. And then it looks like Peter commented in regards to the PVC pipe or building infrastructure from the ground up that Bob was commenting on earlier. And he said they should run pipe, that gray electrical PVC pipe. This way, when they change over time, as Cat 8 is coming soon, you can upgrade. And then also include the pull lines and the pipe. He said he actually did this.
That's a really good, I love getting these little tips from real pros out in the field who are living this. And that's a great question. And I guess, Peter, a question I would shoot back for you is, and I would ask you this, Peter, and I apologize, I'm getting the screens all sorted out. Are you running more than one cable in an individual pipe, or are you running just one cable per pipe? The reason why I ask that is when you go to the Bixie conferences, and Bob will be able to do much better talking about this, is the bundling and how we bundle cables and how you run them. A lot of recommendations are about doing tray, so open tray. And with a plenum rated cable, you can run tray in an attic, no problem, versus running it all in conduit. So, Peter, if you could answer that question for us, do you run more than one cable in that in your gray PVC pipe, or do you just run one at a time? So, Bob, any feedback for us on that question about bundling, or with this new higher wattage, what that looks like?
I will let you guys know when he lets us know.
Perfect. And I should preface this with, I do work for an infrastructure manufacturer, but my expertise is in intelligent buildings. I've never been an installer. So I really am not comfortable giving you those best practices on what to do. My thought would be, if that is a standard compliant deployment, and that makes the most sense for your customer, then I'm all in favor of it. From the perspective of not being a super technical cable expertise, I like the basket tray simply because you have more airflow, cooler cables. Not that there's any safety risk with the cables getting warm, but just the more airflow you get, the better data and power transmission you're going to have through the infrastructure.
Well, thank you, Bob. Sorry to put you on the spot there. I totally just I threw you to the wolves. I'm like, he's gonna know. I was like, ah.
And so Peter did say he runs.
Most importantly, I know what I don't know.
So Peter said he runs 3-inch pipe, and that's really good to find out, Peter.
With branches throughout that go down about 3/4 of an inch.
3/4 of an inch. And I would be curious, Peter, so you probably take it to like a pull box. So you run your 3-inch conduit to an intersection with a pull box that does the branches, so you can get in and pull and reroute the pipe, which is a good practice. I think that's an excellent practice.
Yeah, he said it allows him to not run the plenum cable.
Oh, so you don't you go with a non-plenum cable. I'd be curious, Peter, do you go with the shielded? And where is residential going? I mean, Bob obviously made a real recommendation about the shielding, which is good to know about. But I would be curious about that. And Rob, thanks for getting back to us on the ThinLabs. That is a really good one. I do know with ThinLabs, something that they talked to me about is some people try and cut their PoE budgets real tight. But those ThinLab computers really do use 60 watts of PoE and even a little bit more. So you want to make sure that when you go for some of these higher power things, invest in the increased infrastructure. And I'll give you a great example. Our new management band, I'm still trying to get it out in June, but we're trying to really test out the heat loss. We've been talking about cables and how cables can generate a lot of heat. These midspands, we're doing a 24 port managed midspan, and we want all 24 ports running 80 watts of power.
That's about 2,000 watts we did, right?
That's
Yeah.
2,000 watts of power. You're putting a lot of that can put off a lot of heat if every port is running at maximum capacity. So we're doing a little extra testing there because we want to make sure this thing will be rock solid for the application, because it's going to be doing infrastructure things like lights. It's going to be doing things like televisions. By the way, that's another thing. We're playing with some PoE powered television solutions that I'm very excited about. But because of that, you're doing infrastructure things. It's not the kind of thing. Those are mission critical. They're not the kind of thing that you want to let just go turn off once in a while because they overheat. And to your point, Bob, as you're doing more, as intelligent buildings are becoming more, they're taking over more space, they're taking over more mission critical applications. And that means that it's potential we do need to invest in the infrastructure a little bit more. There's still the cost savings there, and I think you've even shown some cost savings here, and I could bring them up on the screen. But you do need to plan to invest. In fact, why don't we bring that slide up, Bob? I thought that was very interesting, where you had shown how the pulls in a building change when you go with an intelligent building design. So let me cue that up here, and we'll get that switched over. All right, so Bob, I'm going to scroll down here to this table where you were showing the paradigm shift. Let me know if you want to go to the previous slide on that.
Nope, that's fine. I can just talk to the previous slide. So I had an interesting project I was involved in about a year and a half ago, where we worked with the CEO of the company and their existing design team, and we helped them look at things differently. And the first thing we did was we brought in a master systems integrator who could help them with an open integration platform and eliminate a lot of the proprietary control software that Tyler was referring to earlier. And in doing that, saved about $500,000 on about a 23,000 square foot building. When we deployed the building, we took a look at all of the cabled infrastructure that went into the building and really wanted to deep dive and find out, where did the cable go? We know that the building consumed more low voltage data cable than it would have otherwise, but why? And what we found, and this is where the paradigm shift is, that we're using less cabled infrastructure for our voice and data. The trend, and it has been for a while, is to go more wireless with our laptops and our phones and things of that nature. But we're seeing a lot more low voltage infrastructure going in to support the building automation systems within that building. And in this case, again, 23,000 square feet, we deployed 264 low voltage data drops to support their LAN, their voice and data network. We deployed 366 drops to support the building automation, the different systems in the building, including PoE doors, that'd be the card access, camera, lighting, PoE lighting, light nodes, and then access points. So nearly 50% more drops than there are just for the LAN and voice and data. And that number, that delta, is increasing depending on how intelligent that customer wants that intelligent building to be.
Excellent. And the value of that, and that's important for our audience, is this is, you can imagine, this is where scope is going from. A lot of that scope is going from the Division 26 to Division 28. For those of you who are in the construction industry, those are just whether you're talking to an electrician contractor or a structured data cabling installer. And that's important. And that doesn't come at a cost. And I'll get to that, but Maria's got a few more comments here that we want to get up to. And then, Bob, we're going to talk about that case that you had talked to me about the cost savings. So what do we have, Maria, on this?
Yeah, so we have Rob Lloyd. I think he's commenting about the product that you semi-announced.
Yep.
The managed layer 2. He said he does like those devices for places that are already wired, and so that you don't have to go in and rewire, because that can be kind of hard. So the note that you mentioned.
And that's, by the way, Rob, and for those of you out there, the application that I see for this in particular is, let's say you've got an office or a hotel room where you have a network drop already. But that network drop can become limiting, right? You've only got one network drop, and what can you do with it? With something like this, you could throw in, like Bob was talking about, the wireless charging, the USB charging station. You could throw in your Wi-Fi access point. You could do your set-top box, and it can all be done on one network cable. And you can imagine the kind of savings you would see on an infrastructure project to be able to add all those features without adding a network cable. And I think that's, except for some patch cables.
And then we do have a comment about the cabling discussion earlier from Rob Turner. He said, "Sorry, wrong about the cabling." He said Cat6 equals 10 gigabits, which is good for 55 meters.
Oh,
So-
yeah. But,
Okay.
Bob, does that, yeah, could you run us down? Does the, oops, and I apologize, let me switch this over here. Does that mean Cat6 doesn't run as far?
That would be my understanding. Again, forgive me for not being a cable expert, but I was definitely considering up to 100-meter channel.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Cat6 will do 10 gigabits, but only up to 50 meters.
Thank you for that, Rob. We appreciate it. And then
And it
Tom
is
Willis
still
is joining us again.
a thinner cable, so I think you're going to sacrifice on the power delivery side as well.
That's a good point. So we're clear on that. It's not that you wouldn't get, you might experience a slightly lower power budget at the other end. And those differences are subtle, but can be important. Like right now, the IEEE 802.3 BT standard says that you, at 100 meters, you should be able to get 71 watts of power. But that comes from a 90-watt power source. And so, to Bob's point, if you can not lose, I mean, you're talking 75 watts, 78 watts, you're getting more power to your end device. That's valuable for what you're doing. You're getting more out of your infrastructure. So I could see that for the Cat6. There are, and I apologize, Bob, there are actually some higher gauge Cat5e cable out there. They don't do the 10 gigabit. They're not going to give you that nice high data rate. But if you're strictly doing infrastructure, you could consider some of those thicker Cat5e cables that are designed for high power, but they're not going to give you the data rate that Bob is talking about.
Right, and you have to consider both. And to the PowerPoint that you had mentioned, when you're looking at that edge of the network and losing a couple of watts here or there, with the higher power now that we're getting out of the new switches, it's so much more important, especially when we look at lighting and we're able to take a lighting node and be able to divide up that power and pick up additional fixtures. So to the point of your managed switch, if we're trying to minimize the amount of home runs that we need as much power to the edge as possible so that we can divert that power accordingly and be able to connect more devices per home run.
That is a great point, Bob, because and not a lot of people know this. We discussed it at our PoE lighting show. Good PoE lighting and infrastructure solutions aren't just a home run per light fixture, and that's important for the cost. You can run 1-to-1 light fixture and then daisy chain power onto the other light fixtures. And that's an important feature. But Rob is commenting. I see. So again, sorry, Bob, go ahead.
And that can apply to different devices as well. Might be picking up multiple controllers for doors. Might be multiple VAV controllers. So it does apply to just about every system in the building.
That's fantastic. So Rob, one of our tried and true members, we love you, Rob. Thank you very much for checking in with us today. What do you have for us, Bob? Or sorry, Rob.
This one's actually from Tom Willis joining us again.
Why did I say Rob? I said it's Tom. You need to don't let me embarrass myself.
We do have a Rob.
We do have a Rob, but no, Tom is one of our is a fantastic audience member. And we love you, Tom. Tom, I apologize. I've got Bob on the brain. We got Rob, we got Bob, and I apologize. But it's Tom.
So Tom says, conduit for PoE, metal or plastic, is there a difference?
So I don't know that there is a difference one way or the other, whether you use metal or PVC. I would check with local authorities if that is the direction that you're going to go in. It is my understanding that there are very few places in the United States that actually require conduit for low voltage cabling. So again, my preferred method based on what I know would be the open air basket tray.
Yes, and and my experience, Bob or Tom, it works the same way. That data and low voltage. The key with why PoE is such a valuable thing is that it is low voltage, and it can be. It is not required to be in conduit the same way AC power is. Now, to Bob's point, I do know places. There are specific places in the U.S. where they say everything's in conduit. I think Chicago, actually, the city proper of Chicago, that I
Yep,
know of,
Cook County.
yeah, it doesn't matter. They want it in conduit. They've been through a couple of fires, so yeah, I can kind of understand their perspective on it. But
Yeah, Peter let us know that in New York City it requires metal for the rat problem.
oh, the rat problems. That's just not one of those things that I would have said. Well, put your stuff in conduit because you got rats. I hope New York is able to take care of the larger implications of the rat problem. But it is amazing. They do say rats can live on just about anything, and now we know they can live
I've
on
heard
your
the
network
rats
cable.
get pretty big, like the size of cats up there. So
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
It should
Wow.
be noted we do not advise feeding any of your animals with Siemon cabling.
Little
Disclaimer
full
there.
disclosure. And then Rob commented back, Rob Lloyd, to for the Simoners. He goes, yes, it does use a full 60-watt with two 24-inch screens. So about the BT
Yeah.
standard. It's much easier to power with a switch and UPS than having individual UPS at the desktop. Makes it nice, clean office setup with just one cable going to. Oh, looks like my comment cut off.
Oh no, Rob! Just resend it. And for those of you who don't know, Rob is talking about a UPS, which is uninterruptible power supply. And this is actually a very interesting conversation that we're having with PoE, because PoE is offering a lot of opportunities for better UPSs. And the reason why is with PoE on a switch or midspan is you can put the UPS in your server room or IDF or wherever you're managing your data from. You get a better centralized UPS rather than putting a bunch of little UPSs at each box or trying to figure out having some network UPS system. So it's a very interesting proposition. We talked about this with lighting and the UL certification for emergency lighting systems, and those are all relying on UPS. In fact, I'm having a lot of fun because I'm checking out power supplies that can be battery backup, and very quickly you can get better UPS and emergency powered for your devices. Bob, are you seeing that as a trend for a lot of your customers?
Yeah, and I totally agree with Rob Lloyd that it's much easier to back up all these PCs on one centralized UPS. And as far as office lighting and things like that go, we've seen some huge moves forward in emergency lighting on the PoE side. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago, it might even be 6 at this point, when PoE lighting first kind of came to market, one of the big holdbacks was how do we deal with emergency lighting? And there are any multiple ways of trying to accomplish that, some being centralized UPS backup, some sprinkling in AC fixtures, and a whole bunch of different options in the middle. But the authorities who sign off on the code requirements really weren't comfortable with a lot of those in some cases. And now that we actually have onboard battery backup with the fixtures, similar, exactly mirroring what an AC emergency backup system does, we can now fully comply on that side of things with deployments.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm seeing, I've seen two, and I'm sure the guys from Innovative Lighting Solutions, and we'll give a shout out to. I haven't seen theirs, but I need to. Sorry, Rodney, and sorry, guys, Harry. But I know with Platformatics, I did see the other day. Platformatics has that battery backup actually mounted on the light fixture, which is good, and a very exciting innovation. Igor has definitely opted for the more centralized solution.
Mm-hmm.
So they have UL rated nodes that connect back to a backup UPS power supply in the IDF room. So all interesting conversations and that was probably one of the biggest conversations, point Bob, coming out of that shows. People are talking about the emergency lighting and how it works.
Yeah, and further, I have seen from Innovative Lighting or Genesis, I have seen their solution, and it is top notch. They did a very good
Excellent.
job putting that together.
Do they do centralized or do they do distributed backup for the?
They do distributed.
They do distributed. Fantastic.
And so we have a couple comments from Peter and Tom. So Peter states that the others that he uses are mostly Ubiquiti cable, Cat 6. He also has some fiber for bridges between switches and for NAS connections. And his IoT can generally run on 5E as it doesn't need the bandwidth. And then he also commented on the same point that he's doing the same as Rob Lloyd with the UPSs only being located by the switches and NAS boxes, so because they're near each other.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Peter. That is very good information.
And then we have a question from Tom here. Are there any plans for UPS plus PoE combos?
Throw that up on the screen. The answer is yes. And I'll let Bob do the industry one. I'll take the opportunity to respond to Tom real quick. The answer is yes. We could do individual UPS ports, but these our managed midspan, we're going to be integrating it with a power supply that has a battery backup feature where you're going to be able to have a battery system located in the rack with the managed midspan that'll support the power. So I think that's going to be, because I do think that's going to be really important and a very good feature to be able to get integrated so you know your products are working together. Not that they're going to have to be integrated. We'll be supporting other ones. But I think that's a great point, Tom. So thanks for bringing it up. And Bob, I want to get your feedback on that.
Sure. Yeah, and I think you're right on. And it's the ability to integrate, whether it is today or tomorrow, and putting in the right foundation. In this case, it would be that structured cabling plant to support the devices and make sure we can get IP to the edge, gives the end user that ability to make changes at the edge, maybe not integrate everything day one, but have that ability to do that moving forward. Because truth be told, we're looking at buildings now when we have the ability to look at buildings 2 years out. We can speculate and we can say, okay, this is what we have on the edge today, but the edge is probably going to look a little bit different 2 years from now. The connectivity side of it, the power side of it, whether the amount of power changes or not, that is yet to be seen. But the way we deliver that power, the centralized power conversion, that stuff is going to be the same. And that's the platform we need to make sure is in place very early on when we're looking at intelligent buildings.
And so I'll throw out there, guys, this is the implications for this are whether you're talking, and I see the guys from Innovative Lighting have come on.
Yes, Rodney said he appreciates the shout out.
Hey, thank you, Bob. Thanks. I had not seen Rodney. I hadn't seen it, man. So I need to get my hands on it. I need to come back up to Des Moines and visit you guys.
I haven't seen Rodney since I pushed him into the wall at the K1 karting event in Orlando. He did get me back, by the way.
Hockey and go-karts. Nice.
Oh, that's true. Remind me not to do any racing with
Contact
Bob.
sport.
Or get between Bob and the bar at a trade show event.
No anger issues here either, just to let you know. We're good.
But I was talking about one of the features that we do need to be calling out and encouraging people to consider is where you're putting your network equipment, whether you're talking residential or commercial. I can't tell you how many times I go into small offices and you see these small offices, they just slap the big, rack on the wall, or it's rolled off into some corner and it's not really well placed. So I would encourage all of you to be considering and as building owners, think about where you're going to be managing data and make allowances for that data management. And Bob, maybe you could weigh in on this. Your metrics, do you need to be thinking about some data space per so many square feet, per floor? What are best practices?
That's probably one of the biggest questions that we get. Yes, when we meet with customers, especially the IT group, they're like, yeah, this sounds all really good, but what are we doing to our telecommunications room? How much bigger are our data rooms getting? And I think I sent a chart over. Can we pull that one up?
Yeah, let me bring that.
First thing I'll tell you is, in a lot of cases when we're looking at these edge devices and systems, whether it's AC or PoE, we're already running a data cable to it. So we're using a port in a telecommunications room in a rack somewhere already. We're now just eliminating that AC infrastructure. But to isolate lighting being, again, that most dense application in the building, there's a couple of different lighting topologies, node-centric being the most efficient from a home run perspective. And if we look at 100,000 square foot basic, generic office space, you'd have about 500 home runs to support the 2 foot by 2 foot lighting topology there. And that would, if you were using an 8-port. In this case, I referenced the Cisco Digital Building 8-port switch, which is shown in the graphic to the right. It gets mounted vertically in a rack, and you can put 5 next to each other in about 5 rack unit space. So it gives you 40 ports per 5U. The least dense switch option there is on the market. That being said, in a node-centric 2x2 deployment, you only need 65U to support 100,000 square feet. If you used a 24-port UPoE switch, you only need 21U. So we're not adding significant room to that or significant space to those areas. And keep in mind, we can also shrink the electrical closet. And something else that really boils down to math at a higher level than I can give you, when we look at PoE buildings or intelligent buildings, the actual load of that building drops. So there's a big amount of savings in being able to lower the actual feed to the building itself. So a lot of different offsets here. Even in the most, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask a special on this one. Are we finding any special power requirements are necessary? We talked about UPS, obviously UPS, but in that for serving this rack, are you having to upgrade or provide any special power or infrastructure to support this new rack configuration and the amount of power going through it?
Sure. Well, you do have more switches in that space, so the amount of energy being supplied to that that data room is going to increase. However, if we look at what that's supporting, and if we say that had we done AC lighting in that building, the energy load would have been X. This would be X minus. Actually, the Gartner Group did a study that shows PoE lighting is 40% more efficient than AC lighting. So theoretically, then our electrical load for lighting is 40% less, even though we're bringing more power into that space. It's less power we're bringing into a circuit breaker panel, we'll say, to support all of those mains that would have been deployed for traditional AC lighting.
And that's huge, guys. I mean, that's you can't underestimate the value of what that looks like for building costs, because when I do my project management for owners, the lighting budget, unless you're doing manufacturing or some large other power supply, lighting and building infrastructure is what's driving your transformer selection and the power supply to the building. And that is not by when I look in and evaluate buildings, the main cost components are the structure, the HVAC, and the electrical. I mean, when those three together usually make up 2/3 to 3/4 of the cost, unless you're doing some wildly high-end building and flying in Italian artisans to paint murals on your walls. Those are really your cost impacts. And this cost, saving 40%, like Bob was talking about, that is not insignificant, because it has the trickle down effect is your electrical cabinets are smaller, your load calculations are smaller, your transformers are smaller, your cost category that goes to the utility company are smaller. So all those knockdown effects, they are almost hard to quantify up front, but they add up. And I tell people, if you can shave 10% off your power budget, you are saving a lot more money than if you pick cheap tile and carpet. It has a much bigger impact on your overall budget. All right, what do you got for us, Maria? We're getting some good comments coming through.
Oh, yeah,
here.
we have a comment from Peter. I believe it's about the UPS. Peter, please correct me if I'm wrong. But he said Ubiquiti has one for their Edge Router series that has both AC and DC capabilities.
Ooh, that's very cool. I like that. It's their Edge series routers.
Yes,
oh, you know what?
Edge
I know
router
exactly
series.
what you're talking about. So, Peter, you're absolutely right. This is not the Edge router, but this is ours. You're right. It does. It can take PoE in the uplink port, like it's shown here, and a DC on the back through an AC power supply, and that is really beneficial, and that makes a difference, because you want to be able to have flexibility, so you're not reliant on one or the other. So, and I like their products. Ubiquiti guys have fantastic products. What else do you have? Is that
yeah, that was it from Peter for right now. It looks like there hasn't been a new one, but I have a question for you, Bob.
Yeah.
So is there anything that's in the smart building market right now that's already being installed and utilized that people might have thought was either not possible or to come way later than it already is?
Wow, that's a tough one to answer. Everything that I deal with in the intelligent building market is all proven. It's been there. PoE, case in point, it's been around for 20 years, as has lighting. So we're kind of bringing things together. So I guess some of the newer things that I've seen out there would be things like PoE, public address systems and sound masking, the card access for the doors. Those sorts of things are fairly newer in the last couple of years. I think as we have more power, we'll start to see things like the door magnets and things like that being supported, all the way down to other edge devices, convenience devices in the office. One of the things that I really like are the USB charging plates for cubicles and reception areas, things like that. Well, I think it's just a matter of time where we're able to do things like the office coffee maker just plugs into a network jack or a USB port to be able to support that. You'd mentioned the Sinclair building, right? You mentioned the Sinclair property. They have PoE hair dryers that are going in, and they have low voltage DC mini bars. So really, the possibilities are endless. It's just a matter of, is it a native DC device? And do we need to convert the energy at the device level, or can we do it in a centralized means?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very innovative. I like it.
Well, Bob, I do have a question for you then. Where are the limits? You're playing at the fringes of the limits. And I love being honest with our audience because these guys are the innovators. They're out there, on the bleeding edge. And I like helping give them some, this is where we stop, or where you shouldn't, we're not ready to go yet. And they correct me all the time, by the way. And I love that about our audience and the people I interact with. But where do you think are the limits right now of what intelligent building technology can achieve realistically?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So really, there are no limits. And here's why. Because what we're doing with intelligent buildings is we're leveraging this hardware technology to turn the building into ones and zeros. We're just turning it into data points. And once we have all of these data points, what we do with them is limited to our imagination and our ability to program it. Now, on the power side, there's where we have our limitations. PoE, we're going to see close to 100 watts, right around the 90 watt range of the maximum power. So the ability to leverage PoE is going to be by that power budget of the edge device. And even that being said, the limit there is on the economic side, the financial side, not so much the ability to power it. So again, I'll use a light fixture as an example because we had the webcast a couple weeks ago. If we're pushing out 60 watts from a switch and it's a 120 watt fixture, we can run 2 cables to it. The question is, does that make more financial sense than running an AC cable to it and having a category cable for the communication and the control? So I think the barrier, the boundary is going to be more, does it make financial sense to leverage PoE? Or there's other companies, there's a company called Volt Server who's also very involved in the Sinclair project that's doing direct DC power over 18 gauge cable. So we're able to power bigger devices, it's not PoE and it's not running over category cable. So and all of this is continuing to grow, and we're seeing more and more systems, devices, fixtures being leveraged either by PoE or direct DC power.
That's amazing. And by the way, I think if I remember right, guys, the Volt Server, you're talking 1,000 watts on 18 gauge wire, and some new technology that I'm really interested in. And Bob, I hope you and I can talk about this at the next show when we get together. Is the 802.3U standard, and that's the 2-wire PoE, which I think is very exciting stuff, guys. Keep an eye out there for that. Imagine 2 wires running power and up to gigabit data, so you can do a single twisted pair. And I think what you'll see is that's going to be doing some very exciting stuff, especially in that residential and very cost-constrained market, being able to run that cable. So I'll be interested in see how that goes. What do we got?
We have Peter commenting on that Edge Router series device. He said it's Ubiquiti Networks Edge Power, 150 watts modular DC power supply, gave the MFR, and he said it's actually a separate box. So it's not a switch that has 2 slots for sources. It could be 2 AC, 2 DC, or 1 AC, 1 DC.
Very cool. That's a very flexible configuration. And I know You know, I know Ubiquiti is used a lot in the internet service provider market. That's where I see them typically the most. But now their prosumer grade equipment coming on the market, it's fantastic for the flexibility and the potential that it gives you. So thank you, Peter. That's really good information,
It
and we're
is.
seeing some exciting developments and what you can achieve and what you can accomplish. So thanks for letting us know what's important for you too, Peter, because that's really what we want to know is what's important. So Bob, we are running. You know, we've been doing great. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I have learned a ton. I want to give you a last chance to say, are there any points that you wanted to share with our audience that we have not been able to cover so far?
You know, we covered a lot of stuff today, and we really hit that high level overview of why are we considering intelligent buildings. So I think if I were to leave kind of a closing thought would be the technology we have today is amazing. And it's a way of using that technology to maximize people's experiences in buildings. You know, cell phones, I guess smartphones are another great analogy here to buildings. And the reason being is we are all inseparable to our smartphones for a couple of reasons. One, and I credit Apple as being the genius here. They came out with iOS 15 years ago, whenever it was, 12 years ago they came out. And they came out and gave us a platform, an open platform, and allowed developers who had ideas to be able to develop applications to run on that. And that's what's made our phone inseparable. In addition to the fact that our cell phones now, they adapt to us. I can start a text and it half writes itself for me. It knows what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, when I need to leave to get to a meeting, and so on. Up until now, our buildings haven't done that, and there's really no reason they can't. But when we're looking at this technology, and we are looking at open platforms, which allows developers to be creative and develop applications for the building that are going to allow the building to start to adapt to us as the occupants, which will make us more comfortable, which will make us more productive. And still, all the other benefits we talked about, lowering the CapEx, lowering the OpEx, will remain true. Again, creating that platform from which all the other systems and developers will want to then work from. And I'll leave one last little note, a little plug here. If you've really enjoyed this conversation and want to know more about intelligent buildings, IBCon is being hosted as part of Realcomm in June. I believe it's the 11th, 12th, and 13th. Maybe my dates might be a little bit off. It's in Nashville. So if you really want to deep dive and learn about some of the integrators, the integration platforms, lighting partners, and so on, we'll have a booth there. So if you do make it, please introduce yourself and let me know you're on the webcast. It'd be great to talk to you. That's a great resource.
That's fantastic. That's a great opportunity, guys. And what you're really getting is an expert, Bob Allen, is offering the opportunity to meet up with him face to face, and he will make personal introductions with all of these people. So if you're out there and you're really serious about this industry, having done this myself, I would say take full advantage of this opportunity. You don't get guys like Bob every day who are so well connected and so willing to engage with you. And that is a fantastic opportunity. So very generous, Bob. I'm going to throw your email address up here one last time so that everybody can reach out to you and let Bob know. Fantastic guy. We really appreciate that, Bob, for your time.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Maria. It's been a wonderful experience here being on with you.
Yeah, well, we've been great. So everybody, I'm going to wrap it up here. And so thank you, Bob. We will do a quick wrap up here, and we'll get everybody on with their day. So let me set this up. So everyone, thanks again for joining us today. It was a great show. I've learned so much. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Same here.
And Bob has such a great camera presence. I was
yeah.
just blown away by his camera presence the first time.
He's a natural.
He's a natural.
He must have done this before.
He does great presenters. So for all of you out there who've enjoyed the show today, next week, we're back-to-back weeks again because while I was in China, we postponed the show. Next week, we have Dean Heckler from Heckler Designs coming on. We've got the man himself who does the design work. And Dean is coming on to talk to us about network infrastructure and conferencing and building systems. So where Heckler really specializes is they do iPad mounts and tablet mounts for building infrastructure. And where Dean has a great perspective and it's a really good opportunity is he talks about how to optimize what you're getting from your building assets. And I really love working with Dean. He's a fantastic guy, so well connected with the network. He works with networks about conferencing, about assets for how you manage your building flow in terms of point of sale stations, kiosks, conference room, AV interfaces. And he comes at it from a very different perspective than somebody who's just got their own one core product. And I think that's so exciting. So join us next Tuesday, 11 a.m. right here, so 11 Central on your pick channel, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, to talk to Dean Heckler from Heckler Designs. Exciting show. And as a teaser, Dean is going to be launching a brand new product that we are proud to be integrating with him, and we're going to be looking at that and talking about that at the show as well. So join us next week. As always, leave us your comments. If you liked the show, give us a thumbs up. If you hated the show or thought we were full of hot air and no good, give us a thumbs down and tell us why. Because we want the show to work for you. We want this to be the kind of show where you get what you need, and we're talking to the kinds of people you want to talk to. So thank you very much for coming. Last words of wisdom, parting words from our beautiful co-host.
Exciting things are coming. As Tyler mentioned earlier, 2019 is going to be a great year for PoE Texas, and hopefully for all of the watchers as well. But yeah, be sure to keep watching, and let us know in the comments, or even send us an email, give us a call, let us know what you want to hear about, because it is going to be a very exciting year for us. And we're going to share it all with you. So yeah, keep watching.
All right. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you next week.